productivity, as well as reduce post-harvest losses. The FAO, through the Ministry of Agriculture, is the executing agency of this component. It would focus on rice production and major horticultural crops in the targeted areas. Targeted beneficiaries are smallholder farmers in selected districts, as they constitute the bedrock of the Gambia's agrarian community. Component 2 of the project will concentrate on enhancing nutritional status of targeted school children through homegrown school feeding program.
The targeted beneficiaries for this component of the project comprise smallholder farmers in selected districts, as they constitute the bedrock of the Gambia's agriculture, and by linking them to markets, it is expected that production and productivity will be boosted. It is expected the project will enhance the ability of participating households to increase the productivity of their farms, with the potential of producing in excess of their consumption requirements. The second component is a school feeding program under the responsibility of the World Food Program in collaboration with the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education. It aims to supply nutritious food to school children and serve as a catalyst and incentive to farmers targeted by the first component to produce large quantities to be sold directly to the school feeding program. In addition to the school children and farmers, producer groups and entrepreneurs engaged in processing and marketing will benefit from training in production, processing and value addition technologies and marketing support, with the aim of developing viable and sustainable markets for farm produce.
Also, key actors in the school feeding program will receive training on the proper management and nutritional education, with the ultimate objective of attaining sustainable nationally owned school feeding program that supports economic growth by purchasing locally produced foods. Louis Mendy, GRTS.
The Office of the President announces the dismissal of Mr. Haji Kule Kamara, head chief of Jimara district, with immediate effect. A release from the presidency says Haji Kule Kamara is to be replaced by Mr. Kau Tunkara of Gambisara. We now take our first break. The news continues right after. Welcome back. Some 50 million Iranian voters are set to go to the polls this Friday to choose a new president, with one issue at the center of the ballot, the economy. International sanctions against Tehran's nuclear program are taking a heavy toll on the country, as allegations on massive fraud in the 2009 presidential elections also raise eyebrows. Let's turn to this CNN report for some of the major candidates and the talking points.
And the final days of the presidential election campaign here in Iran. A lot of these people are just coming from a rally for the mayor of Tehran, Mayor Kalibaf, who's obviously extremely popular here, although some of his supporters are telling me what we've seen and heard throughout the day. They're very worried about the sanctions, and the sanctions are hurting this economy. We also had a chance to visit the more reformist candidate, at least that's how he's been characterized by many, Hassan Rouhani's campaign headquarters. Interesting, his campaign manager told me that he would be open, he believes, to possibly talking with the United States after he's elected and negotiating on the nuclear program. Totally different story over at the rally I just came from Saeed Jalili, the current nuclear negotiator, where we heard much more dramatic chants, and person after person was saying that the point of this election was resistance and standing up to the West and to quote-unquote arrogant powers. One young man named Bahran sort of, I think, sums up what many people there had to say to me.
We're standing up to America's arrogance.
Outside of these rallies, the government is doing everything possible it can to avoid a repeat of 2009, when, of course, there were mass protests and unrest in this city and in Iran. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Already, the universities, we were at Tehran University, one of the biggest in the country today, it was closed down. The government formally told everybody, hey, the students could go home early for the summer vacation, take an early holiday. But everybody that we spoke to said that the truth is they don't want to have those students around. A lot of them were involved in the protests, expelled, some of them jailed after the 2009 protests. And the bottom line is that the government is doing everything it can to try to prevent that. The key question will be turnout. And so far, what we can tell you is, you see all these flyers here on the ground. People are very passionate the entire day. We've been seeing flyers, posters, and rallies as the last couple days of the election finish. Back to you.
The Turkish government has issued a stern warning demanding protesters end their occupation of a park next to Istanbul's Taksim Square as police prepare to clear the place within 24 hours. And the FBI director has defended the U.S. government's secret collection of millions of phone logs and emails. Testifying before a House Judiciary Committee, Robert Mueller said he expects alleged National Security Agency leaked Edward Snowden to be arrested and prosecuted in the U.S. DWTV has more in this news roundup.
Of the FBI said that the disclosure of a sweeping government surveillance program has compromised national security. Speaking before a congressional committee, Robert Mueller said the programs operated within the law. He also said that Edward Snowden, who was responsible for the disclosure, was the subject of a criminal investigation.
Collecting billions.
The Turkish government has warned protesters to leave Taksim Square and nearby Gezi Park, the focus of huge demonstrations in recent days. Turkish Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan said that police would clear out demonstrators within 24 hours.
We've now come to the end of our patience, and I issue my warning for the last time. I say, mothers, fathers, please take control of your children. Tell them to withdraw from Taksim Square.
On Wednesday, the government told the protesters that it was willing to hold a referendum on controversial plans to redevelop Gezi Park, but few details were available.
As water levels along the River Elbe gradually recede, latest estimates put the damage from flooding in eastern and northern Germany at 12 billion euros. And amid fears that more dams will burst, the authorities have ordered more compulsory evacuations.
We can no longer simply advise people to evacuate, we must order them to evacuate. It's a crucial decision in a very difficult situation for the people and for the region.
The federal and regional governments are due to hold talks today on establishing a reconstruction fund.
A train accident in the outskirts of Buenos Aires has killed at least 3 people and injured hundreds more. Firefighters and police are still pulling passengers from the wreckage. A crash on the same line killed 51 people and injured 700 more last year. At the Swiss Art Basel show, buyers have been shelling out serious sums despite the euro crisis and other economic maladies. Works by artists, including Germany's Gerhard Richter and Britain's Francis Bacon, were on the market for more than $20 million. Analysts say the total value of the art on sale at the show exceeded $2 billion.
It is an extraordinary story of determination and love. Sweta Ketty grew up in Mumbai's Red Line district surrounded by the sex industry, but today she is very optimistic about the future thanks to her mother and the efforts of a local charity. Malka Kapoor has her story.
A popular Bollywood song. My mother says I will make a name for myself. Sweta Ketty sings. The words are significant to her. Growing up in Mumbai's largest red light district, the 18-year-old says it was hard to imagine she'd ever leave it.
I used to live up on the loft, and down the sex workers used to work. So that was keep distracting because I was always curious what they do in there, in the covered curtains.
She says men would ask her to sleep with them. And you saw a lot of abuse as well.
Yeah. Being in red light areas, you'll have to face this because I have faced it in
yourself
my life.
Have you been sexually abused?
Yeah. When I was, I guess, 11 or 12, I was abused, sexually abused.
It was her mother, Vandana Kati, who saw her through those tough times. Kati says she was forced to raise her children in a makeshift room above a brothel because it was all she could afford.